What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the episode of The Lawyer You Know. We are at day 8 where the Commonwealth rested and they saved some of the most emotional witnesses for the last day to make sure that this jury understands who Anna Walshe is, who she was, who she left behind, how difficult this is for people to process and deal with, people that knew Brian Walshe, knew Anna Walshe, and didn't have quite as many glowing things to say as so many other people through this trial. Also, John bought, with my money, a new board here that we're using, so I'm sure we're going to have some technical difficulties throughout this video, either with the sound or the video or something, so you guys will have to keep me posted. I know you like doing that, but hit the like button for new technology. Hopefully it all works today. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Let's get to it. All right, so we have day 8 where it started with a voir dire of Jem, who was the friend of Brian and Anna Walshe. We found out today that he was a friend of Brian's first at some networking meeting. They buddied up, and then he met Anna. They were fast friends, BFFs. She ends up working for him. We'll talk about that. But he is also who introduced Anna and Brian to William Fastow. So he is kind of like the connective tissue, the connecting piece here through a lot of the parties involved. And during the voir dire, there was something very interesting. I thought the Commonwealth did a good job of trying to connect some dots today, give some facts for which there could be reasonable inferences that would be very important for the state. And I think that the judge knew a lot of this was coming, and that's why she allowed a lot of the evidence to come out and allowed the jury to make reasonable inferences from some of the evidence that she knew was coming. So let's first take a look at this clip of something that happened outside the presence of the jury. I'm not sure if it came out quite as clean in front of the jury, but I thought it was a really interesting just little piece to something that he said that, again, I thought a lot of reasonable inferences could be drawn from this.
Remember who she sent it to that night. And this is what I'm really going to focus you, sir, is that night, not what people told you afterwards. Do you have a memory of who she may have sent the picture you took with her that night?
I believe that she said, let's take a picture and send it to Will Fastow.
And, sir.
Out loud, she said that?
I believe so. I believe she said that to me that night. Let's take a picture out loud. Yes, let's take a picture and send it to Will Fastow.
So she said that out loud, okay? So to me, that can be number one, like, hey, William Fastow, let him know, he introduced us. We're both friends. We're together. Let's send a picture. Okay. And to me, that, makes sense. If you're with somebody and you take a picture and you have another friend somewhere else that, is friends with you guys and you take a picture, show them you guys are hanging out together. Great. But additionally, that could be Brian Walshe hearing them talk about William Fastow, sending a picture of William Fastow, maybe wanting to look and see if he could have access to her text messages. Is she talking to William Fastow? Why is this happening? What's going on there? Why do I keep hearing his name? Is that just more information that he knows something else is going on with William Fastow? Thank you so much, Annex, for gifting 20 Lawyer You Know memberships. I think I know who Annex is, but the name is different, but I don't want to say if it's not correct. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. There's a little bit more to this clip. I want to hear.
Again, I do not remember it with precision, but I do remember the picture being taken. Yeah.
And, sir, is it fair to say that along the lines of that statement, you told that to me yesterday at lunch? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Had you told me that before, to your memory?
I do not recall.
Okay. And on New Year's Eve, did you have any conversation?
Okay, and the reason the prosecutor asked, did you tell me that yesterday at lunch? Why do you guys think he asked that? Because you guys are picking up on this right now. To me, I'm guessing, right, because we don't hear all the sidebars, that this might have been a late disclosure or something that he has never said before. And the defense is like, what are we supposed to do with that? He's never said this before. They shouldn't be able to testify about it. And he said, well, no, he just told it to me yesterday. Immediately when I found out, I made you guys aware of it. So it's not a late disclosure. It's not prosecutorial misconduct. And he's getting this witness to admit that out on the stand under oath in front of the judge. That all is very, very important because to make sure the prosecutors aren't doing anything wrong, because we may have seen some cases where that could be the case. So that was to keep everything above board. Then they kind of discuss, marital problems. Did she say they had marital problems? Did they not say they had marital problems? And he couldn't use the words marital problems, even though he continued to use the words marital problems. They tried to keep that down and just what Anna Walsh said to him, which is so funny because it's like the antithesis of usually what we do as attorneys. It's like we can't usually ask, what did this person say to you? But that's all we can ask because that's the exception to hearsay. When the declarant is unavailable because of the defendant, you're allowed to get that hearsay in for her state of mind at the time. So it's very different than how we usually handle things. But they were really trying to tone down what he said as far as what Anna Walsh had to say. So then we get to his actual testimony. Again, I talked about how they met. He hung out with Anna he talked to Anna on 12/29. And again, he very clearly said marital problems. There was an objection, moved to strike. It was struck. He was very emotional, talking about how Anna ran out to greet him, talking to the kids, how the kids said they missed him. They drank wine and champagne. They signed the champagne box. Everything was going great. Everything was going well. We are going to listen to a clip to see a little bit more information about what happened that night. Keno said, poor John. John bought with my money. He's just trying to drag you into the modern world, sir. And he shouldn't buy it with his money. He's buying it for, this. It should be with my money. Just nobody likes spending my money like John. I don't even think my kids like spending my money as much as John does. And I can't believe how expensive this thing is. But, whatever. I'm not the technology guy. So I just hope it works because usually we do all this and then it doesn't work. So hopefully it just works. That's really all I ask. All right, let's jump to some of what happened that night. All right, here we go.
Now, that night, did you see any injuries on Anna?
No.
Did you have any concerns about her health?
Physical health?
Yes.
No.
And that night, do you remember what Brian Walsh told you he had for income that year in 2022?
Yes. The gist of it was that it was $50,000 or $60,000 that I remember.
And that night, did he tell you about Anna's compensation that she now had at Tishman Speyer?
Yes, and I believe he said that it was $240,000 plus with bonus it would add up to roughly $300,000.
What problems did you see between the two of them that night?
None. Not.
Okay, so I want you to remember some of this. What problems did you see between the two of them that night? None. This is going to be an example of a huge, major mistake by the defense going too far, asking too many questions. Because I actually thought that while it was very emotional, he was a very likable witness, he was friends with both of them, I don't think during just his direct, he was overly damning for Brian Walsh. Now, some of that is lawyer speak because the objections and the striking of what he said. I'm pretty sure you guys picked up, probably what the jury picked up too, that Anna Walsh told them on the 29th that they had marital problems. However we want to define it and what words did they use, to me, I think they probably picked it up. Cody said he would have objected and asked for a mistrial during the testimony or a curative instruction to the jury. So the reason you'd never get a mistrial, she gave an instruction to the jury multiple times about how they can take this. It is hearsay. It's less reliable. It's for her state of mind. It's not necessarily for the truth of the matter asserted. So there were some instructions made there. But from my perspective, they continue to get it struck. That's about as curative as you can get. It's not going to be a mistrial because that was his overall feeling. It's not like he's lying, number one, and he's basing that off the context and saying she did say that, but he can't remember the exact words. So there is actually some gray area there, and I thought the judge did about as good a job as she could to protect the defense. I know some judges that would have allowed him to say marital problems because within the judge's discretion, and this judge did not, which I think was the right call. Mistake by the defense or prosecution? Defense. Just wait. Because listen to this, I don't think he was overly great for the prosecution. It wasn't necessarily their fault. I really think these prosecutors are trying not to stretch witnesses further than what is appropriate that they actually can see or can say. But when the prosecutors didn't hit a home run with him really on direct, I thought the defense really stepped it in on cross and then opened up a really good redirect for the prosecutor. Annex said, you're right. It's me, Netwoman. Be nice to John. Santa's watching. I thought of you and Whitney. Lifetime is having a Christmas movie on the 20th called A Pickleball Christmas. I'm sure Whitney and Brooklyn are already going to watch it. Maybe I'll actually join and watch with them. And I'm just messing with John, of course. Of course. I just hope it works. I hate technical difficulties. Santa can put me on the naughty list if he needs to. Lisa, thank you for gifting 10 Lawyer You Know memberships. You guys are the best. I love this time of year. There's always tons of gifted memberships going on. We get a bunch of new members to the membership crew. It's always a fun time. So thank you guys so much for that. They talk about how, Brian was only making 50 or 60 and Anna was making 240 plus bonus 300. No problems between them. We're going to listen to a little bit more of this clip.
Nothing that was visible. It was a festive night.
And that night, what did Mr. Walsh tell you about his cell phone?
At some point, he said that he had misplaced his phone, and I remember this vividly, that he said that it actually felt refreshing to be away from the phone for a little while.
Did he tell you what time he normally goes to bed?
Yes, because I asked him, because it was getting late, and I didn't want to overstay my welcome. And I believe he said around 9:30, because they were waking up early for the kids.
And so after hearing this, what did you decide to do?
I said I'd better go.
About what time was it when you left the home that night?
I'm going to say it was probably around 1:30, and I don't recall with precision, but it was probably around that time.
And
All right, so we'll stop that clip there. We're just going to jump ahead a little bit because Brian was trying to set up the kind of alibi with his missing phone. We'll get more to that later when the Commonwealth summarizes it. All right, we're going to jump ahead to the next clip of kind of what was happening that night, conversations they were having. Actually, let me answer a couple questions. Do we have some questions? Maybe a dumb question, but if a witness causes a mistrial by saying something wrong, do they get in trouble? Absolutely not in his circumstance. If it's a cop or a party, like a plaintiff or a defendant or, a victim even sometimes, or like I said, law enforcement, a trained or even an expert, then maybe they could get reprimanded, sanctioned, something like that. A witness like him, he's trying to do his best, right? It's not normal for lay people to think to testify like this or to tell a story like this, and we as lawyers and judges understand that. Just wanted to share good news. Today I found out I'm taking sociology of law class in the spring, and I'm very happy, and I'm looking forward to it. That is amazing. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing the good news with us.
And I received a call from Brian, and he said, "Have you heard from Anna?"
what'd you say?
And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, Anna's been missing." And I said, "How could she be missing?" And
So this was pretty awesome how he had described, this was good for the Commonwealth. And I'm not saying he was a bad witness for the Commonwealth at all. I thought he was good, but I thought he ended up being great by the time cross and redirect were done. But anyways, he was saying, Brian Walsh was calling saying she had a work emergency, which she never said she had a work emergency, by the way, prior in December 31st when he was with her. And Brian never mentioned a work emergency either. But then when he called Jem days later, now he's talking about a work emergency. And listen to how he responded to that.
he said that she left that morning after I had left. She left a few hours later. I think he said around 6:30, that she got in an Uber and left.
And did he say why she left?
Yes, he said that she had a work emergency.
Now, hearing this, did you ask him anything about that?
I did.
What did you ask him?
I was incredulous. I said, what work emergency could there have been on New Year's Eve that, was commercial property? What could it be? I said, listen, did you guys have an argument or something? Did you have a fight?
He's like, your story makes no sense, bro, which the jury knows now is a complete lie. And Jem sniffed it out from the beginning. And what was his immediate thought? He's like, that's BS. Did you have a fight?
And what was his response to that statement, sir?
His response was, I do remember this vividly as well. His response was, no, did it look like we had an argument?
Meaning, you're going to be my star witness, Jem. I'm going to call you to the stand to say he was there. He saw. No arguments, no issues.
You were there.
And what did you say to that?
I didn't know what to make of it. I was in shock. So, I said, you've got to call the police, and we've got to alert everybody. We've got to let our community know, and we've got to find her.
Now,
yeah, and overall, again, the way he described things, you could tell he loved Anna, and you could tell he loved Brian Walshe too, which I think is actually good for the prosecutor, that he's not here to like go after Brian Walshe, but he knows, or I think it's clear that the jury knows that this guy thinks Brian Walshe did it. That's my opinion of judging the credibility and what this witness had to say. All right, that's basically what we're going to listen to for direct, because cross was almost better for the Commonwealth than direct was. But we're going to play some good stuff for the defense and some bad stuff for the defense on cross.
To open the door for me, and she was an exceptional employee and friend.
And you valued her employee. She was valuable to you as a friend and an employee.
Very much so.
You relied on her.
Absolutely.
She never said no to you. She did what the job required.
That is not true.
Okay, so tell me about a time she said no to you or disagreed with you.
Well, we did have a disagreement in the fall of 2021. And there were times that she...
So this to me, again, the defense brings this in. There's a couple different ways I can look at this complaint he is about to make about Anna. Marjorie said, today was the perfect object lesson for the defense. Be careful what you ask. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lisa said, sitting here at Duke Transplant Center with my husband, Darren, 3 long days of testing. He's having an MRI now. He will be put on a list for a liver. Lisa, you and Darren, your husband, will be in my prayers. Absolutely. I will remember your guys' names and be praying for you guys. Keep us posted for better or for worse, right? If we're doing life together, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. We got to be prepared for everything. But we will be praying he gets the liver that he needs on the list or for healing. Whichever way, good things can happen. That's what we're praying for.
Sort of, she responded to me a couple of times with what I perceived to be passive aggression. And
so he said Anna was passive aggressive. So if I'm the jury, if I'm the defense, maybe I'm like, okay, good. Look, they're seeing Anna's not so perfect. Maybe they won't like Anna. Okay, if you're the defense, fine. But if I am the prosecutor, I think what I'm thinking is maybe she got a little, by the way, it's not illegal to be passive aggressive, okay? Especially in a relationship. So it's like maybe she got a little passive aggressive with Brian Walshe that night. And he couldn't stand it. He didn't like it, whatever. Interesting. I see some people saying, Peter, please take a poll. I don't know what you're asking me to take a poll on. Under Your Scars said, Peter, has the judge decided if the jury will know Brian pled guilty on the other 2 charges? Hard to decide as we know that, but Merry Christmas, 8 inches of snow in Ontario. That's wild. I haven't heard whether or not she is. She definitely made it seem like she was leaning on no, that she was not going to allow the fact that he pled guilty. A lot of the information is obviously coming in. But yeah, we don't know the answer yet. We don't know the answer on that yet, that I haven't seen at least. Cody said, thank God I'd be a felon for sure. It's like, exactly. Let me see if there's any more. Yeah, there's a little more here.
And yeah, I actually reached out to a mutual friend and then another friend in leadership to seek some opinions as to how I could handle this.
Seems like a smart guy. Again, very endearing thing. He sought counsel for how to deal with an employee that he really liked, but she was acting inappropriately. And by the way, to being a good employer, that doesn't mean you just let people walk all over you and do whatever you want. You're kind. You make it a good work environment. You make it hopefully the best job it could possibly be for them. You help them provide for their family, but you have to still have expectations. You have to call people on their expectations. They should know what those expectations are. And when they don't meet them, talk to them about it.
And did you end up handling it by suspending her for a period of time that fall of 2021?
I told her that she should take a rest, she should stay at home, and that I would continue to pay her for as long as it took, but that she should take some time off because she was also working exceptionally hard, and that was taking a toll on her. She wanted to prove herself. She's like that. So I remember a client of ours.
So I'm just going to stop you.
Yes.
When you, as you say, suspended or had her take some time off, you still loved her at that point as a friend.
Very much so.
You were still close with her.
Very much so.
It didn't end the personal relationship.
No, not at all. And it didn't end the professional relationship either.
And during that time, I think you talked about seeking counsel. You actually reached out to Mr. Walshe to talk to him about it specifically.
That's correct.
To me, sure, that's endearing to Mr. Walshe, but that's also endearing to Jen. Like, this guy loved Mr. Walsh, and now he's here testifying against him.
This was, obviously, Anna was important to you professionally
And as a friend, yes.
and
both.
personally.
Yes, absolutely.
And Brian was a close friend of yours,
That is correct.
and you wanted to talk to him and get counsel about how to best move past this.
Yes, we did. We met in the in the North End. We had a meal and talked about it.
At some point in November of 2020,
All right. So then they talk about how her new job, he understood why she left. She did leave after this, which, some people might have feel some sort of way about that. But it was a growth opportunity for her. They stayed in contact. They kept talking about it. Then they get into the fact that, again, for the millionth time, we hear Brian was not the jealous type. And to me, there was a little interesting twist on this one. By the way, if you're here in the chat, make sure you guys know how to accept gifted memberships, because it seems like Netwoman/Annex is on one. And when she gets on one, you want to be here for the ride. I'll just tell you. That's a little hint. That one's free, okay? That hint is free, because when she gets on one, we end up with a lot of new members. So make sure you have that turned on. Okay, let's listen to this little line the defense threw in.
and during those conversations and your observations, Anna told you that Brian wasn't the jealous type.
That's correct.
And at some point, while Anna was working for you, she confessed that she had a crush on you.
She said that, yeah, maybe. I don't recall specifically those words coming out. But yeah.
With looking
He's like, I'm not sure. She may have said that. She ends up impeaching him, and it doesn't seem like that's actually in his deposition transcript. So, I don't necessarily know if that's true or not, but the jury heard it. And the defense said she had a crush on you. She had a crush on Fasto. She had a crush on everybody. You didn't want to be with her. You ended up getting in a relationship with somebody else you work for, and Anna was actually jealous of you. And he's like, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. That woman knows. She knows. She knows. Look out, people. It's raining. It's about to start raining here. It already is. I watched this with about 8,000 other people today, and I didn't see anyone that thought that was really bad for Brian in any way. And the poll was 70% not guilty, that they didn't prove murder one. We're still going to get to intentional homicide. And that's fine. Nobody has to agree. We can all disagree. I'm just telling you my point of view, right? If we vote guilty or not, Melanie's poll was 70% not. So on first degree, I assume, is what that vote was on. Because I think ours is even more. Last time we did a vote, if we did, I don't know if we voted or we talked about, but the majority of the chat is by far saying no to M1. Absolutely. Chris said, in honor of Netwoman's secret identity, Annex. Yeah, she's like, listen, she's like Batman, Batwoman. Okay? We can't reveal it. Okay, let me see. He considers Anna a confidant. She was an exceptional human being. He's known Fasto for 20 years. Told them they were good friends. All right, then we get into another little chunk here I want to listen to.
told us a little bit about a phone call you had with her on December 29th.
That's correct.
By the way, when I said the majority of the chat would not vote M1, some absolutely would. There is a percentage that absolutely would. Peanut Fluff said, I don't think he could behave as he did after 1/1, after January 1st, if he hadn't been thinking about M before. Is that a reasonable inference from the evidence? I think that his demeanor could make you think he wasn't shocked, he wasn't surprised, he wasn't feeling sad, he did what he wanted to do and he planned to do it. I think that is a reasonable inference. It's probably not enough for me, but I could understand how it might be for you. I think what you need to be able to articulate if you're a juror and you're back there in the jury room, what is that reasonable inference? Why do you think he did it on purpose and intentionally? And we're going to hear at the end of the day during the JOA arguments why the defense said they absolutely did not prove intent and premeditation. And then the Commonwealth gives their summation of how they believe they did prove it. And to me, that's a little bit telling. The jury didn't hear it, but I heard it, and it kind of affected the way I'm looking at things a little bit too. Are there lesser includeds? I don't know if they're going to end up on the verdict form or not. We haven't seen them go through jury instructions, so we have to wait. We have to wait and see. Unless people do know that already, I don't know it personally. I haven't heard it said or not.
Anna Walsh never told you that she was romantically involved with Will Fasto.
No.
That's really good for the defense, in my opinion. Like, she wasn't telling anybody. There was really nobody here that knew about it, not even Jem. That was something we weren't sure about before, but really good point for the Commonwealth.
She never told you that she was going to leave Mr. Walsh for Will Fasto?
No,
And she never told you that that she had more than plutonic feelings for Mr. Fasto?
not particularly, but she was, I mean, emotions are complex. I knew they had gotten close,
Okay.
but she never told me that she had a relationship with Will Fasto.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I just want to return to her relationship
that I
with...
can recall. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'm just going to return to Anna and Brian's relationship for a few minutes.
sure.
You had
So
told...
as they returned to the relationship, Steam Griper said, I need a lesser included and a membership. Well, you got a membership. We'll see if we get a lesser included. And Chris just dropped 10 more memberships. So maybe you got one of those. Yeah, I noticed her say plutonic. That was a little bit weird too. I think she just meant platonic, but.
Was that you spent time with them both together as a family,
That's correct.
and you also spent time with them individually without the other one.
That is correct.
And when you spent time with them together, you never really saw them argue.
Can I tell you, ever heard of a pregnant pause? If you remember that from the Karen Reed case, that's about as pregnant of a pause as you can get. It's 9 months pregnant.
You never really saw them argue.
I don't recall having seen them argue.
By the way, this is the best section of cross for the defense, and it's kind of near the end. I would have just stopped. When I stopped this clip, that's where I would have stopped cross and sat down.
And they were a couple that you've described as in sync with each other.
I would say so, that I always thought that there was a lot of love between them, and that she was very much in love with Brian. Yeah.
Sometimes each one would come to you individually.
That's where I would have ended it. She was very much in love with Brian. They were in sync. Never, I don't recall ever seeing them argue. Like, yes, sign me up for that if I'm the defense. Nanny B, when do we find out if lesser included? If they haven't announced it already, when they do jury instructions, they'll go through the verdict form and we'll hear the jury instructions on the lesser included and how that works. So that's when we'll find out. Analog, is the defense calling former Troopa Prakta, Michael Prakta? Will he be called to the stand? I don't know. We'll have to see. He's on the list. I got M1 with the parole officer today. Okay, hold on. Stop. I will play that I'll pull your comment up when we watch the parole officer because we're going to watch some of that. Lisa said, Brian was jealous of anyone who had a relationship with Anna. It didn't have to be romantic. Okay. It's your opinion. I think the evidence hasn't really said that necessarily, but so then they get to New Year's Eve. They talk about taking some photos. They talk about a big diamond ring for several $100,000, how nobody was drunk. And then we get, what did I just click? Okay. Then we get to the just too many sections, too many questions. This is where I thought they really put their foot in their mouths and opened up the door for a redirect. I also thought this end was so bad to cross that if I was the Commonwealth, I may not have even done a redirect because I thought this was such a bad ending for the defense. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree.
Didn't make sense to you.
It's about 5 minutes, so it's not just, bang right away done as soon as we click.
That you were just with them.
That's correct.
And you said to Brian, did you guys have an argument? Did you have a disagreement, right?
I did.
And you asked him that repeatedly.
I don't know if I asked him that repeatedly. I did ask him that question.
And he said to you, no. Did it look like we had an argument? You were there.
That's correct.
Because it didn't make sense to you that they hadn't spoken in days, right?
That's correct. And it also didn't make sense to me that she would leave shortly after I left. Yeah.
And so given that, it didn't make sense to you. You were there until 1:30. They weren't arguing.
They weren't arguing, no.
You said the night was joyful.
That's correct.
They were happy.
That's correct.
And from everything you saw and what you've told us, they were in love.
Well, they were happy is a loaded statement, I think.
let me-
I mean,
Why do you need that? You've already gotten it. They're a couple in sync that he's never seen argue before. Why do you need that? Why do you need them to say they were a couple that was very in love?
they seemed happy that night, but people are complex. So I want to make sure that I answer that question truthfully.
No, I appreciate that.
So
Let me ask you this.
I did know a couple days in advance that
So let me
she,
just stop
yeah,
you for a minute,
thank you,
okay?
sure.
You've been a realtor for 23 years?
25 years now.
25 years.
She's like, let me stop you for a second, kind of realizing how bad it is. But now it's just getting worse and worse.
So you're a salesperson, right? In a sense, one of the aspects of your job is to sell properties, right?
That's correct.
And would you say
And
that
now she's going to get into you're a realtor. You know how to read people when you sell property. It's like, you don't want to do this. It was like teetering on, is she making him an expert in reading people? Because she just asked him to read Anna and Brian Walsh from the Commonwealth. I'm like, now I'm going to ask him to read Brian and Anna Walsh. What did you think? You're good at reading people. You're a 25-year expert on reading people. It's like, why are you doing that?
one of your greatest assets is to be able to read people?
That's true.
Understand
To listen,
people.
to understand, yes.
And I think you just said people are complex.
That's correct.
And so you in your professional job, part of it is to kind of be able to understand those complexities,
Yes.
to see if someone is maybe putting on a brave face or holding back, right?
Sure.
And you had known Anna and Brian Walsh as a married couple for almost 3 years at that point, right?
That's correct.
And you had spent time with them together. You said that their family was like your family, right?
Sure.
And you had spent time with Brian by himself.
I hadn't seen Brian in months at that point. And I hadn't also only seen Anna physically. I hadn't seen Anna physically in months.
Okay, but in the past, in those times that you have described them as family, as close friends, you would spend time with Brian Walsh, just one-on-one.
Yes, I had.
You would spend time with Anna, just one-on-one.
That's correct.
She worked for you, and you described that you would be in touch all day, every day when she was working for you, right?
I can't say it was every single day, but
Okay,
it
well,
was,
she brought pastries to your home in the South End,
sure,
right?
sure. Yeah,
And you told us that she was your confidant and you were hers, right?
that's correct.
You went through an intense program with Mr. Walsh, right?
That's correct.
And you spent 5 hours with him on New Year's Eve on December 31st of 2022, right?
That's correct.
And you described the night as joyful,
Jovial.
jovial, as full of hope.
I'm not sure.
Before the break, that everyone was hopeful and looking towards the new year.
I'm not sure that I would describe it as hopeful for the new year specifically. If you had to ask me specifically as to what the mood was, whether she was, because I had heard a couple days prior.
I'm going to stop you.
Sure.
And the amount of times she had to stop him, there were objections. She's like, well, what I heard a few days prior, I'm going to stop you. It's like, well, guess who's going to follow up on that? The prosecutor. That was not great. Yes, her friends were emotional, but emotion isn't supposed to have a seat on the jury. Based on what the evidence they heard, the burden isn't met, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not saying emotions is what won the day, but emotions are part of a trial. And if everybody thinks nobody cares about Anna Walsh, it does affect a jury. You will not find a lawyer that will avoid emotional testimony. So to say that emotions and feelings, it's like, yeah, of course, you don't win cases on feelings. Feelings is not how the law looks at these cases. To be a trial lawyer and act like there are no feelings in a trial is foolish, in my opinion. Because jurors are people. And what do people have? Feelings. And so you have to make sure that they're not getting the wrong feeling, right? And appropriate feelings make sense. How Brian Walsh was communicating and feeling and acting after December 31st is evidence and is something the jury is considering, in my opinion. And then we saw Bruce Wayne come through again and drop a 50-bagger. A 50-bagger. That's wild. It's wild.
You all signed a champagne bottle, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And that's where the complexity comes into play. I cannot know what was going on in their hearts and minds. Yeah.
Clearly. And he's like, it seemed fine, but clearly I was wrong. That girl Banks said, it's raining mems. Hallelujah, it's raining mems.
Of course, thank you.
No, I understand,
Of course,
sir. I'm
yeah.
talking about those complexities.
Sure.
You said that everyone was laughing that night together, right?
Yeah, there was a good mood that night.
Good mood that
Yeah.
night. You never saw them argue, right?
I did not.
You said at one point that you saw them talking and laughing with each other, right?
Sure, yes, I
And
did.
at one point, Thomas came downstairs and they didn't shoo him back up to bed. It was happy to have their son together with you.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And when Brian was cooking for you, he was even putting a Turkish flair on some of the foods
That's-
specifically for you, right?
That's correct. I remember him saying that, yeah.
And at 1:30 when you left, they weren't even telling you to leave. You just realized it was late and you should go.
That is also correct.
And so when you heard that Brian was telling you that he hadn't spoken to his wife in 3 days, that did not make sense to you.
It did not.
Because when you left at 1:30 in the morning, it was a joyful, happy occasion. I'm using your words. It was a joyful, happy occasion on New Year's Eve of January 31st, 2022.
I didn't understand how Anna could be missing and how we did not know about this since the first of the year. It had been
Okay, I'm going to back it up. We're going to listen to this again in full. But like what he says here, this is basically letting the cat out of the bag. It's like, hey, defense, I know you have your theory. I know you have your argument. I know you're doing your job. But when you ask this kind of question, if I was the Commonwealth, I would have wished I could have found a way to ask a question that would have elicited this answer, because that would be good lawyering. But instead, the defense attorney did it for you. Cut the crap. What's the logical thought process of everybody in Anna Walsh's life on the 4th? He's like, how the heck could she be missing? And we didn't know about this for 3 days and we have no leads on her. And she went to a work emergency. Seriously, Brian, did you guys get in a fight? It's like, that's the logical response that's now in evidence from this witness, thanks to the defense attorney.
I didn't understand how Anna could be missing and how we did not know about this since the first of the year. It had been 3 days, and our community had not been correct. We had not known about this for 3 days. I did not understand, and the tone of voice was not panicked.
So let me just ask you my
And the tone of voice was not panicked. It's like, yeah, that's what everybody's been thinking. Those are the questions everybody has. Bro, you seem way too calm about this. 3 days missing a grown woman? I think that's the end of the clip that I wanted to play, but let's see.
question again.
Yes,
Let
thank
me
you.
know if I'm not phrasing it right.
Please.
When you left the house
Yes.
of your good friends
Yes.
on January 31st of January 1st now at 1:30 in the morning,
Yes.
the mood was joyful and happy.
Yes.
Nothing further. Your Honor.
Yeesh.
Redirect.
So that was about as good of an ending she could have had, right? But then let's hear how redirect goes.
We were saying about people being complex.
Your Honor, I apologize. I could be just losing my hearing. I can't hear Mr. Connor.
And I'm talking into my shoulder, so that's my fault. Sir, when you were saying people are complex, and you had heard a couple days prior, are you referring to your conversation with Anna a couple days prior?
Yes, I was. I am.
What is it that you heard in your conversation a couple days prior that makes you say that people are complex?
That they had marital problems.
Objection, move to strike the characterization.
All right, and I'm going to remind you, sir, I'm going to strike the marital problems of characterization, but you can, without characterizing, you can discuss what you recall her saying, even if you don't remember the exact
Sure.
words.
I recall.
Restate the question again.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Understanding what Her Honor said as far as what Anna was saying,
Sure.
what is it that you heard in that conversation that you just said that people are complex?
Well, if
Yeah, Anna, I get it. I completely get it. And I think that that's kind of the right legal response. But it does have an effect on people. It does. I appreciate your comments.
I may I explain?
I think you can't, sir. I think you have to stay with just what Anna said to you.
Sure.
When you state what Anna said to you. If you can't, that's okay. But if you can state what Anna said to you, that's my question.
On the 29th,
Yes.
when we had that phone conversation,
Yes, sir.
she told me that there were cracks in the relationships. And I don't know which words. She may have used precisely those words. She may have used other words.
Be seen sidebar objection, and I'm going to move to strike that testimony.
I'll hear you.
So they go argue at sidebar and they kind of move on after this. But there were cracks in the relationship. So just because everything was happy and joyful that night and they weren't biting each other's heads off or fighting that night doesn't mean it was a perfect relationship. And until Jem, I have kind of felt like everybody says it's a good relationship. It's kind of shocking to me. Now it's like you don't really know people. You don't see behind the curtain. And maybe she was reaching out to other people talking about problems, cracks, issues. And now we get to the parole officer who said she sees Brian Walsh about every 60 days back then. And Truly Laws said, I got to M1 with the parole officer today. I was missing some planning element, but the way he asked for time and the testimony about Anna's state of mind from the BFF got to the finish line. We're going to hear the BFF a little bit later, but let's take a listen to the parole officer now.
Mr. Walsh in the black sweater.
Thank you. Your Honor, might the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
In January of 2023 and December of 2022, was Mr. Walsh, the defendant, subject to conditions set by a federal district court?
He was.
And what were those conditions?
He was subject to a number of conditions, to include home confinement, which limited his movement in the community.
When was the defendant authorized to leave his home?
He was authorized to leave his residence with a pre-scheduled pass. He would have to ask permission before leaving his home.
Did he have set windows that he was allowed to leave?
He did.
And what was he required to do before leaving his home?
Prior to leaving his residence, he would have to have an approved schedule.
And who would approve that schedule?
I would.
Where was he allowed to go?
A client on the home confinement program is only allowed to leave the residence for essential necessities, so things such as employment, education, religion, treatment, attorney visits, court-appointed activities. He was also allowed to do things such as grocery shop.
Usually when you get those conditions, you're going to prison. So they talk a little bit later about how he didn't end up getting sentenced. He was asking for probation. The prosecutors were asking for prison. He was going to get prison time, in my opinion. I'm going to wait to do a poll until after the defense goes, as far as like guilty and not guilty.
Banking, grooming, things of that nature. He also had permission to do things with his children and his mother.
So what did he need to do as far as specifying where he would go?
So on Thursdays, he was to submit schedules to me with what essential necessities would be required for the following week.
And how would he do that?
He would send me an email.
And what email did he use?
brw@tensaleconsulting.com.
What permission did he have to leave the state?
He did not have permission to leave the state.
You said that he was allowed to go for necessities. Is a restaurant considered a necessity?
No, it is not.
What did he have to do if he wanted to deviate from the schedule that he had submitted on Thursdays, I believe you said?
Correct. Yeah, if there was a change to the schedule, he would be required to submit a new schedule request,
And how would he do that?
again via email.
And who would he do that to?
Myself.
Every step, everywhere he went, she had to know about it.
So I want to ask you about Friday, January 6th of 2023. Did you see the defendant that day in person?
I did.
Okay. And what contact did you receive from him requesting permission for his window for the following week?
On January 6th, Mr. Walsh submitted a schedule for Wednesday, the 11th. He requested a haircut appointment from 1:30 to 3:15. He also requested a pass for the 12th to meet with his probate attorney from 10:30 to 3:15.
What contact did you have from the defendant on January 5th of 2023?
On January 5th, Mr. Walsh contacted me to inform me of law enforcement contact, which is required by his conditions of release. He also notified me that his wife, Anna, was missing.
What was his window of release on Thursday, January 5th?
On January 5th, he had a reoccurring schedule to drop off his children between 8 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. He then had a pass to assist his mother with some errands from 10:15 to 1:30. And then he had reoccurring schedule to pick up his children from 3:45 to 6:15.
And
A lot of people are echoing Lucia's, his home confinement was a joke. It's not that unusual, really, for these circumstances, but I get where you guys are coming from. Fletcher Boy said, Brian is a fraudster. Is he lying now? Hard to believe a con man, in my opinion. Not just a con man, not just a fraudster, but like admittedly lying to the cops as well.
the morning schedule and the afternoon schedule, was that a set recurring schedule?
Correct, Monday through Friday.
And was the middle, the time that he was with his mother, was that also a recurring time, or was that something he had just requested?
He had just requested it the week prior.
And what was the window of release for Wednesday, January 4th?
The 4th would have been drop off children from 8 to 10:30. Then he had a reoccurring groceries schedule from 11 to 1:30, and again, pickup of the children from 3:15 to 6:45.
So that was all prearranged?
Correct, yes.
And what was the window of release on Tuesday, January 3rd?
Tuesday, drop off children, 8 to 10:30, pick up children, 3:15 to 6:45, and he had a reoccurring schedule as well to get his trash out, and that was from 7:50 to 8:20, I believe.
So 7:50 to 8:20, I saw some people, I don't know what to make of the fact that the trash was off-site. Like, where did he actually take it? Definitely not to private apartment complexes who don't allow outsiders to throw their trash away in it, which, by the way, a couple of the other, we get more videos from Home Depot, from TJ Maxx, of him buying clothes and mats and cleaning materials and baking soda and throwing more trash bags into different apartment complex dumpsters. But I don't think that's what they mean by his trash being off-site.
In the evening?
In the evening, sorry,
Okay. And why did he need that for the trash?
because it wasn't on his property.
Okay. And what was the window of release for Monday, January 2nd of 2023?
On Monday, the 2nd, he only had pickup and drop off of the children, so 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., and then pick up from 3:15 to 6:45.
Okay. But did you receive some information about an unauthorized leave for that day?
I did.
And when was that?
Approximately 3:53 p.m.
And did you speak to him?
I did.
And what contact did you have with him?
I reached out to him to ask him about the unauthorized leave, and he indicated that he was picking up his children per usual.
Okay. And in fact, the 3:15 to 6:45, was that authorized for Monday, January 2nd, 2023, being a holiday?
It was, because there was no notification that school was not in session.
And what was the window of release on
So
Sunday?
he would plan to go to these places when he knew he had authorized leave and was supposed to be picking up his kids, basically.
January 1st of 2023.
On the 1st, he had submitted a request to return his mother home from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m.
And what do you mean return his mother home?
He indicated that his mother was staying with him post-surgery, and he was taking her back to her residence.
And when was that window established?
That would have been the week prior, so I want to say December 22nd.
And where did he indicate that he would be returning his mother?
To her residence.
And where was that, if you know?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. And at that point, did he ask permission to go to a restaurant
He did not.
for January 1st of 2023?
He did not.
And was the defendant allowed to go places if he had not cleared it with you first?
He was not allowed to do any unapproved stops.
I might have one moment.
You may.
All right, I think we get the gist of it. And to me, these unauthorized leaves, these, doing things when he's supposed to be doing other things, it's like consciousness of guilt with 100% certainty. But if you get with, the defense's theme, they're like, yes, he did have a guilty conscience at that point. That's why he chopped her up and, got rid of her, because he thought everybody was going to think he did it, basically. Sunco said, Peter, question. Is there any liability on the feds if Brian Walshe is convicted with an ankle bracelet since they were not properly monitoring? So generally speaking, in this scenario, answer would very, very highly likely be no. First off, no. When people are out on release, you can't just go sue the law enforcement or the judge. But in this scenario, it probably went as far as to say Anna Walshe probably vouched for Brian Walshe to be able to stay home. So, extra layers. But no, that's not how any of that would work in these scenarios. Is the jury allowed to infer that Brian Walshe dismembered, disposed of her body to cover up the M1 he committed? So they are absolutely allowed to infer that he covered up the crime he committed, whether or not that means it's M1 or M2 or manslaughter. He could have covered up any of those crimes if they believe it's conscious of guilt. If they think it goes to premeditation, I would like an explanation, like how do we get there? But I guess they theoretically could. And then, Netwoman, then there were 10 more Lawyer memberships gifted. We're going to jump to Alyssa Kirby now. We kind of talked about some of the other smaller witnesses. She was, again, very emotional, gave us a background of how Anna was, their relationship, fast friends. She called her while she was driving home for Christmas. She was annoyed that Brian reached out to Kirby and bothered her because it had only been an hour and a half before they had talked. Now, to me, Brian Walshe is a strange guy. I don't really get Brian Walshe. But was he panicky? Was he needy? Was he attached to her? Was he, overly possessive of her. There were just so many things that made me think that's so interesting, how he's acting in all these different scenarios, but I don't know the answer, right? But she does discuss even more about their relationship. And again, this witness paints a very different picture than a lot of the other witnesses about this relationship. So let's jump to that.
6 hours.
So what was her demeanor that night?
So that night, because of what happened after Christmas, she was really upset. She was kind of breaking down because everything had been really hard, which Anna was always a very strong person, so that was very unusual for her. And she was just really upset about so much. She had really hit a breaking point. And
she was really upset. She hit a breaking point. Those are the kinds of things, in my estimation and in my experience, jurors hold on to that. She hit a breaking point. She was passive aggressive in the past. What happened that night? Inference stacking here. It's tough, but they might get there. Irish Eye said, I would like to go on record that, in my opinion, Home Goods is an essential location. I think some people would think the same about Home Depot or maybe even TJ Maxx. That said, I'm all in for M1. Who agrees with Irish Eyes?
yeah, we talked about a lot of things because she was so upset.
Ms. Kirby, can you tell me what she was upset about?
She was primarily upset about her and Brian's relationship, about being so far away from the kids, and feeling like she was upset having found out that the federal case was delayed, or she thought that the federal case was delayed by Brian, and that she just really wanted to be with her kids. Their marriage had been really strained for a long time, and she told me how upset she was and how frustrating that was, and how she was really at a breaking point.
Jurors, I'm going to remind you that the statements that are being offered.
And now here is again another instruction by the judge. Jenny Black, thanks for gifting 5 Lawyer memberships. A generous crew tonight.
With regard to Anna Walsh's state of mind are admissible, again, limited to establishing her state of mind, as is relevant to the defendant's motive to kill. To the extent that such state of mind evidence includes statements describing the defendant's federal case, Anna's statements are admitted only to show the defendant's motive and not to show that he had a bad character or propensity to commit any criminal offense.
So it's just to show Anna's state of mind, not to say he's a bad guy because he's got that federal case. It's like you can tell a jury that as much as you want, but if I asked 100 people, I think 99 would say, if I told you a guy was a felon at the federal level and was going to federal prison, and then I'm telling you he committed another crime, would you be more or less likely to convict him of that other crime? I didn't tell you anything else about that other crime. Most people would say, yes, more likely that he committed that other crime, which is why it very rarely comes in and only for very limited circumstances and proof. Gamecock said, not sure if the new setup includes camera. It all looks very crisp. Merry Christmas. I actually don't know. I do know that one of the main reasons we got this thing is so that I can boost sound and balance sound better when we have bad sound in the court. I think that's why John got it. I don't know how to use it yet, so I'm not going to even be able to really use anything today, but there's a lot of wires going into this thing and coming out of this thing, so I don't really know. We'll see kind of what it does as we go, and you guys can keep me posted, but I know it for sure affects sound. I don't know if it affects, and it should affect that my lips are matching up with the camera now, because people were saying that was a problem before. We listen to you guys. We listen and we don't judge, and we try to improve based on what you guys say. Can't make everybody happy, obviously, but we do our best.
Thank you. Had you seen her like this before?
No. Anna was usually someone very, very happy, very joyful, very strong.
Okay, no characterizations, just your observations. Next question.
When talking, did she use specific words about what she had said to the defendant, what she had said to Brian Walsh about the legal case?
What she told me about that was that she was upset because she wanted him to take responsibility. She wanted their family together. She wanted that whole process to be over, and she wanted him to be responsible, be accountable, and do whatever he had to do to keep their family together.
She wanted him to take responsibility, which infers that he wasn't taking responsibility and wasn't going to do it in this case either, because that's just not what he does. Rebecca said, after this witness, it's all M1 for me. And Kino said, no tech issues so far. Hashtag Team John. Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. John gets a pat on the back, though, if we get through this entire thing without any issues.
And what did she mean? What did she tell you that she meant by the word responsibility?
Yeah, at that point in time, responsibility was potentially just taking jail time. And
Anna wanted him to go to jail. Does that seem like they loved each other and loved this, relationship was so great?
admitting wrongdoing and just owning a mistake, and so that their family, that she would be waiting for them and that their family could be together.
This fraud wasn't really a mistake, but I get what she means.
Did she give you specifics of what she had told you about the amount of time?
I think it was all an estimate, but at the time she thought maybe a year.
What did she tell you about the physical separation and her family staying together?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask.
Peter, isn't it prejudice to Brian Walshe with this witness crying on the stand? So most of what this witness is saying is prejudicial. Somebody crying on the stand while they're explaining something, it is what it is. You can't sob and, they'll take breaks if you need to. You can't go overboard. You can't force yourself to cry. You can't do anything like that. But if you happen to cry while you're telling an emotional story about your friend being dead, that's not unlawful or unduly prejudicial. There are lines. If it gets to a line, the judge will take a break. But she didn't come anywhere near getting to that line.
That well. What did she tell you about being in different states and what that physical separation might mean?
Yeah, that it was really difficult for the family, but that also, because of how difficult things were, she was contemplating what that could mean legally being able to take her children to Washington, D.C.
So Dev said, I think Alyssa was lying on the stand. About what? About how strained their relationship was? It's possible, right, that witnesses really think Brian Walshe did it and they want to go do whatever they can to make sure he gets convicted. But what made you think that? Because it was different than what a lot of other witnesses said? Inconsistency? That's something the defense can argue to the jury.
And also the physical separation from a husband was very difficult for her.
What, if anything, did she tell you about having established a separate household?
Oh, that she had told me that everything was set up in her name, the house in Washington, D.C., and the bills were.
About her intimate relationship with Brian Walshe?
All right, so here's a big point of contention. What did she tell you about her intimate relationship with Brian Walshe?
She told me that, aside from everything being really difficult, that they had not been intimate in a really long time, like maybe over a year, I think she had said.
And what did she tell you as to why?
She said it was because that Brian had been really depressed and that the strain of the case had really just taken a toll on his mental health and their marriage, and that she felt also that that her energy was being really drained.
Not intimate for over a year for your wife because he's depressed. We're really adding things that could make people angry and do horrible things, right? And they manifest themselves in different ways. And to me, she is adding a lot to that. Ms. Krista said John deserves some jelly beans. He does love jelly beans.
Yeah.
Was she specific about what she meant by her energy being drained?
Yeah, at that time, she was saying that Brian was calling her several times a day, that she felt physically and emotionally exhausted traveling back and forth from DC to Massachusetts. There was just a lot on her body.
What did she tell you about Brian and his mother?
All right, so now we're going to get to Brian and his mother for the last part we're going to watch here. Gabrielle said, I think today was a good day for the defense in terms of raising reasonable doubt for M1. Plus, Google search frenzy only after January 1st also raises RD for premeditation, M2. By the way, great analysis on your Becky Hill video. Thank you so much. Gabriella, I think, I don't know if I might have said Gabriel. Gabriella, thank you. So again, I don't see that, but if you do, that's great. I want to hear what you guys think if you were jurors. What was good about the day for the defense today? I think the whole trial, they've done a pretty good job of raising a reasonable doubt for the premeditation and intentional part of this. But what today specifically sticks out for you? And a lot of the Google searches were done on other days as well. So I want to know what today specifically you thought was great for the defense on these parts.
She had always said that.
I'll see you at the side of the bench.
All right, we'll skip the sidebar.
For 20. Ms. Kirby, in this conversation on December 29th, what did she tell you about Brian and his mother and a psychic?
She told me that Brian had told her that his mom went to a psychic and that the psychic had said that she was having an affair.
All right, so this, I will tell you, in my brain and how I am, this meant less than nothing to me, but I think it might matter to some people. Maybe he took some steps based off that. Maybe he started searching her phone. Maybe that's how he saw her iMessages or Messenger or whatever it is that he looked at. Did that matter to you that his psychic told his mom that, she was having an affair? I don't know. You guys tell me. Green Unicorn said he premeditated by sending his schedule to the parole officer for approval, knowing there was no school on the 2nd. This was before Anna disappeared. I like that. I like that. This is the type of stuff that I like to hear and how we're getting there. By the way, we're at the 1 hour mark. We're not done yet. I was planning on playing the arguments at the end of the day for JOA. They're about 10 minutes long. Do you guys want that? Well, how many likes are we at? Let's make a like frenzy here. Let's get to 3,000 likes, 4,000 likes. What are we at? Let's get to 3,000 likes before, and if we get to 3,000 likes, we will do the JOA arguments as well at the end of the day.
And that night she told me how ridiculous that was and how she was very upset by that. And she'd always felt that Brian's mom didn't like her and that it was scary.
Did she say why? Why that was scary?
Yeah, I think because she always.
Objection as to, I think.
Yes, sustained.
Did she say why? Not your opinion, just did she say why in that conversation?
Yes, what she said as to why was that she felt like his mom never really liked her and never.
So I don't know why that's relevant from my perspective. I don't think that's relevant to me, that maybe his mom didn't like her. And we know there's nothing more coming because they rest today. Dev said she's very inconsistent with every other witness, and she and her emotions felt fake to me, and it felt like she was trying to sneak things in. Interesting. Okay. And Netwoman gifted 10 more Lawyer You Know memberships to try and get those likes up. I know that's why she did it, right, Netwoman? Try to get those likes up to 3,000 likes, and we'll do the JOA. We're at 2.1 thousand likes right now. So, and there is 7,300 people on YouTube right now. So, it should be easy. 3,000 is less than half. People haven't hit the like. Half of you guys haven't hit the like button yet? Ouch. Ouch. Feel that one.
Wanted her in the picture, basically.
One picture from Exhibit 145.
All right. So, and then she does break down with that picture. Let me see here. Then she talks about Brian texting her. Brian also thought the mom was crazy talking about the psychic. So she got that in. On cross, I did not think it was a really effective cross. It was pretty short, which is also how you know they probably were a little afraid of this witness. They didn't want to go too hard at her. Anna said she had a crush on Fasto, and she told Brian, but Brian wasn't the jealous type. She kind of wished Brian was a little more jealous. She wanted her family to be together. That was a really important thing. On redirect, did she tell you she wanted her family together? She was exhausted, kind of clunky on redirect. Yeah, I didn't think it was a really great redirect by the Commonwealth on this witness. All right, we're up to 2.6K. I'm going to read a couple questions and then we might be done. We might be done for the video, or we'll see. There was a stipulation that Brian pled guilty to the federal crime. He sought probation. Government sought jail time. He wasn't sentenced when he was arrested for this crime. Alexa said, am I the only one surprised they didn't call the nanny. I wasn't that surprised. I mean, I don't think it was necessary, but you guys let me know if you were surprised. Azam said, I have to leave. My students are here. We have a final push preparation for their final paper on the 18th. Take care, chat. See you in Rewatch Crew. So Azam's leaving. Do we really need to do the JOA arguments? Maybe not. Maybe not. Blue in the face. How did this man not take a plea deal? Maybe one wasn't offered. I don't know. Well, my plan was to not necessarily do the whole JOA, but to listen to what the defense said, because I think you guys will like that. So we'll just listen to the defense, and if we're not at 3,000 likes, we will end it there. By the way, spoiler alert, the judge denies the JOA, and the defense is going to start their case in chief tomorrow. But let's take a listen to the defense's judgment of acquittal argument.
For the most part, Judge, I'm just going to rely on that pleading, but what's important in this case, for purposes of arguing the Lattimore standard and the required finding, is that in the facts and circumstances of this case, even if you consider all of the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, that the circumstantial evidence and the inferences have not been proven on the elements of premeditation and intent. And it's important to distinguish.
And this is what we've been talking about the whole time. Premeditation and intent. That's the difficult part. How long were they friends for? 1 year? I think that sounds right.
The fact that
acquittal, meaning the judge dismissed this case, throw it out right now because they didn't prove it. They're done with their case in chief. They can't enter any more evidence. And even with all the evidence being in the light most favorable to them, no reasonable juror could ever find that this was premeditated and intentional. That's basically what he's arguing here.
issues that do not constitute the specific elements of the crime charged. Here, the inference must be beyond a reasonable doubt because it must support the element of premeditated murder, and it must support the specific intent to kill. And whereas the Commonwealth has based their whole prosecution on what we characterize as a three-pronged approach, that motive evidence that they theorize supports an inference of intent and premeditation, they have failed to present the type of quantity and quality of evidence that would then result in an inference beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Walsh ever premeditated a murder or ever manifested the specific intent to kill. The three-pronged approach that the Commonwealth took in this case was that Mr. Walsh was motivated by financial interest, which has not been established by any inference sufficient to carry the day, even on the Lattimore standard. The second prong is that somehow Mr. Walsh was using his children and his role as primary care provider to avoid going to prison, and that has not been established by any sufficient evidence. And then there's the third prong, and it has to do with the affair, and where it seems clear that the Commonwealth has established that Anna Walsh did in fact engage in an intimate affair with William Fastow. They have failed to establish sufficiently to withstand the Lattimore standard that he even knew about the affair. In fact, if you consider the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth from their own witnesses, there is no evidence presented to this jury that he knew about the affair, that he reacted to any knowledge of the affair. In fact, the reaction that he had fell far short of someone that was even jealous of the fact that Ms. Walsh reported to him specifically that she had a crush on Mr. Fastow. And I understand, we understand, that whereas motive is not an element, that's not what we're arguing, and I say in our motion that if the government stands up and says since motive is not an element, that the argument that we just made doesn't apply. Well, that misses the point, because that is the whole foundation of their prosecution in this case. And so respectfully, Judge, in the unusual circumstances and the complex circumstances presented in this case, I would ask that a required finding be entered on indictment 001.
Thank you.
Premeditated murder of Anna Walsh.
So now, the Commonwealth, we got 3,000 likes, so we'll listen to the Commonwealth. Is the JOA done in the presence of the jury? No, it is not. It is not. Iceman said, Peter, could they have pled to the two charges so they can start the appeal on the Google searches coming in, as the SJC said they won't hear the appeal unless there's a conviction? I don't think that would be a reason, but maybe. I don't think that would be a reason, no.
Your Honor, as to evidence that the defendant killed Anna Walsh, the defendant was the only adult in the house on January 1st after Mr. Mutlu left. There's evidence before the court that Anna was a fit and active 39-year-old. and in fact that she participated in a vigorous.
By the way, the JOA for the defense was all about premeditation and intent. And now, listen to how the Commonwealth responds. Has this ever been granted? Yes, it has. Judgment of acquittal. That's a JOA. That's what we call it here. I think they call it something else there, but it's the same thing. Can the prosecutor add lesser charges at this point if they feel the need? So again, we'll see if they add them in. If the defense objects, we'll hear arguments on it during jury instructions. But here they would be allowed to, and in Massachusetts, I know they've added them in other cases, so I think they still can.
Exercise class at Bar Method on the 31st of December, where she demonstrated that she was in good physical condition. Evidence of the bloody slippers, bloody bath towels, bloody carpet on his broken Gucci necklace, combined with the defendant's internet searches about cleaning blood from wood floors, his purchase of large quantities of cleaning products, are sufficient for the jury to find that Anna met a violent death in the living quarters of 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. To also point out there was
a violent death. Okay, I can agree with her there.
On the defendant's thumb, and there was evidence that he did purchase Band-Aids and some antibiotic cream on January 1st. As to deliberate premeditations, there's evidence that the defendant was aware of Anna's relationship with another man. He told police that he monitored the Chase credit card statement. That is an evidence before the court. That statement includes a purchase of a plane ticket to Dublin over the Thanksgiving holiday in 2022. The defendant was aware of Anna's itinerary. He told police that he had suggested that she go out during a layover in Frankfurt, which she did have a layover in Frankfurt at one point of that travel. And again, looking at that travel, it's clear that looking at the Chase statement that it was indicated a trip to Dublin. And the defendant told police that she had only gone to Serbia to see her mother. And I suggest the evidence is more than sufficient to find that he was aware of that trip to Dublin. He also searched Will Fastow's name on December 25th, and he also researched emergencies in buildings that Anna managed in D.C. I'd also point out that the defendant's phone, which he said was mislaid from December 31st to January 2nd, he told Mr. Mutlu that when Mr. Mutlu came for the New Year's Eve dinner. That phone was repeatedly unlocked and connected to a power source while it was supposedly missing. The evidence indicates that the defendant used that phone to create an alibi for himself. It explains why he was not contacting Anna. And then when he did say he recovered the phone, he started sending text messages to Anna, and he later showed those messages to police. It suggests he was using the missing phone as a way to create an alibi. And to explain why there was...
So again, and there, she's got about another minute left. To me, and I see some people having some sound issues, there's nothing I can do right now on it, and I don't want to hit any buttons here, and we're about done. But they don't really hit on intent. They don't really hit on premeditation, in my opinion, in their entire synopsis of the facts.
No, he didn't have the phone with him when he went to Vin and Liquors and threw something into the dumpster, or when he was in Lowe's buying cleaning supplies and cutting tools on January 1st. Your Honor, there's also ample evidence of motive. There's evidence that the jury can find that if Anna took the children to D.C., the possibility of the defendant avoiding jail time on the federal charges would lessen. We heard testimony today about the impact of that on Anna and what she intended to do. Anna also had life insurance policies and financial accounts, which the defendant was...
So that was a decent one if she takes him to D.C., and we heard some of that today.
...beneficiary, and he stood to inherit substantial funds if Anna Walshe were deceased. And also, Your Honor, the defendant's elaborate web of lies regarding Anna allegedly leaving for a work emergency in D.C. He lied to friends, family, and the police about that. I suggest that that also is sufficient evidence to give this case to the jury and would ask that you deny that motion for required finding of not guilty.
All right.
To me, almost nothing about intent and premeditation. Almost nothing. But for this period of time, the judge has to take every single piece of evidence and the inference to be exactly how the Commonwealth would want the jury to hear it. So that's why she denies it. She does the right thing. No surprise there. I don't think any judge would grant this. But as far as arguments to the jury, if I'm on the jury, I think I lean more with the defense's argument than the Commonwealth's when it comes to intent and premeditation. That's where I lean. You guys can tell me if you disagree. Gabriella said, friendly relationship, WF and photo sent on New Year's was not a secret. Crush on Fasto was not a secret. Anna said she would wait for him, even if he got arrested, etc., is good for the defense. That doesn't mean they didn't fight about it that night. That led to M2. So I do think, I mean, this is plausible. This is plausible. And that's why I like explanations and not just, one-sentence statements. So thank you, Gabriella, for giving us a lot of this information on how you are thinking. So, of course, a lot of people disagree with me. I get it. That's what jurors are for. All right, everybody, that sound messed up. Half of the people say it did. Half the people said it didn't. Just refresh, and then you should be able to hear it pretty fine. Should Judge Bev had granted the JOA? I got to remember back like every piece of evidence that was found if a jury could have found that. To me, if I think about it, the medical evidence, the evidence of the car and John O'Keefe's body, maybe the answer could have been yes to that. But the Commonwealth did make arguments that if the jury bought their arguments of the light lined exactly up with the scratches, then maybe she could have said no. But maybe more on that later. All right, I got to run. You guys are the best. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're going to be breaking this case down every day. And if you guys are interested in the Becky Hill pleading guilty in the Murdoch situation and how that's going to affect his appeal, we dropped that video during lunchtime of the Walshe trial today, so you can go back and check that out. Tell me what you think of it. I got to go. You're the best. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe.
You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com.
And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.